Welcome to Thrill of Bitcoin. Welcome to Thrill of Bitcoin.
Mike, welcome to the pod.
Hey, thanks, Car. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. I wanted to catch up on everything you got going on because it's been a busy year for you. Just real quick, what do you think of 2024 so far? What was your highlights, lowlights, in betweens?
And 2024 it's been crazy. This whole, I'm using quotes, bear market, couldn't have been further from that, from my perspective, because I just saw so many things happening, especially in Nostr and Lightning, that just really gets me extremely energized in the music and artist creator space, because those are the tools that really matter. So, I launched Tunestr a year ago, or my first, announced publicly was at Nostrasia. So it's been a year and a week. And so 2024 has been a blur.
A lot of traveling?
Yeah, I've been trying to get to, every conference that I can fit into my schedule, and just it's my proof of concept year to just see, is there, do the plebs want this? Do the artists like it? Is this something that has legs? I know the answer, but I want to see it, right?
You need to see proof of it.
Right. We're still, pretty small community, and not a lot of people. There's a technical barrier to entry with Lightning, especially, and making a living off this stuff isn't easy. So these artists are going to have to kind of go with a dual approach a lot of times.
Yeah, it's not quite there yet, but it will be, and when it is, it'll be very fast, I think.
Agreed.
At least that's what my intuition tells me.
Agreed.
Where did the idea come from?
Well, all credit to Kieran.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been in music 11, 12 years here, running independent music venues. So we're fighting Live Nation. We're fighting the big machine, particularly in the live space. But we interact with all of the independent artists who, deal more with the Spotify, the recorded side, the royalties, the PROs. And, I'm a CPA. I'm the CFO of the business and the day job. And Bitcoin didn't take too long for me to connect, right? You've got a disintermediated financial system with transparency, triple entry accounting, fixed supply, all that stuff. Yep. Check. And I've just seen a whole lot of forced solutions, people trying to force Bitcoin into artists because they feel the music industry has so many parallels. And that's exactly where I stood during the last bull market was, how do you not see the similarities between concentrations in music and gatekeepers and rent seeking and all the same stuff that we see with the financial system? And, the vision of Tunestr has always been in my head, but until Nostr came about, and then watching what Kieran was doing on Zapstream, it was so obvious once that started being used as value for value and connecting fans with, everything from Sergio bartending to people playing guitars in their garage. I was like, oh, this is perfect. And so it's just the beauty of this open source community. I can't take credit for it. I just kind of saw the opportunity and decided to bring it to some people to see if they like it too.
Yeah, I think for me it was, like you said, I just don't see the point of going on Twitter or going on some of these other platforms and giving away alpha for no sats. It's like, no, pay me or I'm not going to use your platform. Like that's just kind of how I feel at this point. Is that wrong to feel like that as a creative?
No, I mean, it's not wrong, especially when you're basically getting the same results on the paid platforms, right? Like you're making just fractions of a penny on the various legacy platforms here with Spotify, Apple Music. And, it's not a mystery. Everybody loves it's everybody's favorite thing to point out and take shots at. And I kind of enjoy the idea of presenting a solution to artists and just say, you know what, like it's pretty trendy to take pot shots at Spotify, but you got options. We can explore this, young nascent community. And if you want to be a part of something, that my favorite phrase is opt out. If you want to take the parallel path, there really aren't any strings attached to just, if you own your masters and you own your content, to go put it out there and see if the plebs will support you without the machine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, it's kind of reminds me of like, I guess in the 90s when like CDRs were like proliferating, all over everywhere. And people were selling CDs, their own mixed CDs out of their trunk,
Totally.
I remember that going on in Houston at that time. It was like a big rap scene there and they were all selling their CDs. And I was just like, wait, what's going on here? It's just at the park and they were selling like $20, $25 CDs. And it was just like, wow, to see that. And now I think it's kind of a little bit different. And I think a lot of these platforms, like Twitter being one of them, Spotify that you mentioned, and Apple Music, some of these other places where they just don't pay you. And if they do, it's literally pennies on an inflationary dollar. It's like, it makes no sense when I see that. It's just, to me, Nostr and some of these other platforms that you can use like Snacker News to even like your platform, like Tunestr or like you said, Zapstream or Wavelake, where you can actually make Bitcoin, the hardest money on earth, to recoup some of that creative work it's just a no brainer. What do you think?
100%.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? Just the whole proliferation of this kind of sad economy that we've created as an ecosystem.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to witness, because I mean, I think the majority of folks like came into Nostr in particular around the Jack, tweet in December of 22. And that was the same with me. And really that had such a massive ripple effect for me. And I think for a lot of creators like yourself, where, Nostr brings the social graph and the social aspect of interacting with your fans into the Bitcoin world. And when Will created Zaps, you've all of a sudden got a payment directory. I can look up car and zap you, whether, I don't have to ask you for your Venmo handle or your, some of these traditional ways that you would get people paid. And the way that all of these just work together, it's just, God, everything you do, it's so clearly a superior product and a superior experience for creators, right down to, most people haven't had the experience of being censored, but they've heard of people who have. That's one checkpoint. Interestingly, like one of the most important things when I talk to artists is their minds explode when they are presented with the idea of only managing one online social graph. Like my digital identity with Nostr can travel from app to app. Like, and I just describe it as like, imagine, you've got your Instagram glasses and you can just look at your identity through the Instagram lens. And then you can go over to TikTok and it filters your content. And they're like, oh, so I could just post once and get zapped across all of these things and get compensated for my content by posting it once. And that I think, to answer your question about the proliferation and watching that, I think when more artists see that in action, it really clicks. Like if you have them drop their NSEC from Primal into Fountain and they're like, wait a second, I didn't sign up for any new account. I didn't do anything, but here I'm my profile picture's already there. My username's already there. My follower count is the same. And that really, as Derek Ross says, that the purple pill makes the orange pill go down. Because then they start asking about money. Then they're like, see a few sats hit your wallet. I heard about Bitcoin in 2015, and it wasn't until a couple years later that I actually bought it. And once you own it, we all know the relationship changes, even if it's $10. Like, you hear the news headlines differently, and you have a different relationship when you watch the number going up in your own wallet. And I'm optimistic that that's what Tunestr could play a role for in artists is, stream your music, get a few sats for free. And then all of a sudden you've got this new relationship with Bitcoin that you're going to pay attention.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the whole application side of Tunestr a little bit, and tell me a little bit about how that kind of live flow kind of takes place. Because I've been to a couple of Tunestr events, and it's very interesting to see how these artists kind of, I guess they know that they're being driven sats during their performance. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that structure works?
Yeah. So right now, we've got primarily people who are already orange pilled, like Ainsley Costello, Just Loud. They played the first show last December that I ever did in Minneapolis. And you've got these sort of champions, and the Phantom Power team in Nashville, Jim and Julie Costello, have been onboarding like crazy. And so typically the artists to date so far have known what the deal is. They understand, yep, I'm going to go live on this platform. I've already got my wallet set up. And they really get a lot of energy and a lot of love out of watching, the chat room go, and then the interaction of the sats hitting, watching because it populates, we always put TVs up in the room. So they, some of the devs have made a specific leaderboard that's really fun, that kind of gamifies how they display rather than just, the normal Zapstream Tunestr interface if you just logged in online. And so the artists can see in the back of the room when it like lights up, and they know that that's somebody sending them value. Mm-hmm. So most of the people so far have known kind of what they're signing up for. But what I'm really interested in is this opportunity to have a conversation with an artist who's open-minded, maybe curious, maybe not, but just say, hey, I've got this plugin. If you want to try out this live stream, you might get some online support. I try to avoid the word tips, but that's always what people resonate with. And if you present it that way before they even generate a Nostr key pair, before they even have a Bitcoin wallet, you then have this relationship where it's clearly no risk. It's clearly no account. They can't be like duped or swindled or sold some bill of goods. But then at the end of the night, you sit down with them and you say, hey, you got $40 of value sent your way, you want to collect it. And that gives you that opportunity to educate them after the fact. And I'm curious, that's kind of the next step of the Tunestr model, to see how it can actually grow adoption and then initiate that relationship of educating artists and, getting beyond that current use case, which is people who are pretty familiar with the space already. And, maybe they're even singing about Satoshi, they're singing about like the zaps, which is really fun to watch, but that's not really the mainstream goal. We're not trying to change songwriting. We're trying to change music.
Yeah, especially. Yeah. I love a good Bitcoin song like The Next Guy, but after a while it gets kind of, old.
Oh, it's great. It's just like, we know how we're judged by the mainstream. So like we gotta, we've got something, and there's a lot of really, it's interesting. There's a lot of really prominent musicians who kind of see this, but there's very little upside to dive in and put yourself out there and be judged. And, I guess I'm a pretty good case study there, actually. Like, I'm in a position of power in the independent music industry, and we do 1,200 concerts a year. And it's not worth it for me to just go run around banging the drum if people aren't ready, because it puts a target on you. And I experienced that in the last bull, because I got, I was going through my evangelism phase, and you get, people will find you when they're ready. And now everybody knows who I am, but
yeah,
I let it come a little more gracefully, and I try to continue to present solutions rather than proselytize.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? The evangelism when it comes to finding these artists and, trying to get them to, or maybe not trying, but just telling them to use Tunestr, or even answering some of the questions they might have about it. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, the main resistance is pretty low-hanging fruit FUD for guys like us. It's just, it's kind of all of the Elizabeth Warren talking points, and you just gotta be patient and, just be kind of calm and confident, and just say, yeah, that's a pretty old narrative. It's been proven wrong time and time again. We're not boiling the oceans. We're not exclusively scammers and criminals and funding terrorists. Any new technology is going to come with strong opinions if it's truly disruptive. And that's usually the biggest barrier for entry. Is it's a pretty simple risk reward calculation that these artists are doing, whether they're doing it consciously or not. Of like, you come on Tunestr, you're going to make, a couple $100 maybe if you have a really good show and you market it properly, versus the potential backlash of some people who really don't understand and have chosen not to like this thing called Bitcoin. And, it takes some bravery for an artist who's already got an established fan base to go out there and really embrace it in a more than subtle manner. But they're out there, and I'm working on them. I had an interesting, I'm not a name dropper, but it just the truth, right? Who cares?
Who was it? I'm curious.
Well, so right after the Bitcoin conference in July, we had Killer Mike play the First Avenue main room, and I was at the Bitcoin Miami conference 3 years ago when he played Sound Money Fest. So I knew he at least
understood Bitcoin.
Everybody there had to pay and had to accept payment in Bitcoin. So I knew he held some, and I just kind of know he's played First Avenue 15 times. Like, he's a friend of the club. Like, I knew that it was a safe conversation. So I talked to him in the green room after the show, and I said, so tell me, like, be real, like, what's your position on Bitcoin? And he's like, man, I'm like 10% Bitcoin. And he wasn't talking in terms of like his stack. He was talking in terms of like how much he's into it, and he's just honest. He's like, it's my manager. He said, my manager kind of keeps me away from it right now because it's just not, it's divisive and it's distraction, and it doesn't, it's not moving the needle for an artist like that to just tap into a Bitcoin community and like, you're not going to make a whole bunch of new sponsorships, right? You're not going to. And so he can quietly appreciate the opportunities and understand what it means, but he doesn't have to like go out there and, do what we do, which is travel all over the world and scream about monetary policy and, and the hard money of the world. And,
yeah,
at the end of the day, they want to create their art. And in the same way that we feel passionate about this space, they feel passionate about their art. They don't want this to be their primary focus or distract them from their art.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. That's interesting. I didn't know Killer Mike held Bitcoin. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as an activist and a, progressive like adopter of technology, and it fits his personality perfectly. But I'd never heard it directly from him, other than I knew he was on the bill at the Bitcoin conference 3 years ago.
Wow. Is there a particular way that you go about to explaining, the whole process of I'm sorry, we have some people visiting. Where was I going? Yeah. Is there a way that you go about explaining the setup process for the onboarding with Tunestr? Like, is there any onboarding for the artist, Mike, or is it mostly just on your end and your team?
It's, the real like win, I think, is when we have it all kind of in the same experience. Is like, you want to do a Tunestr show, like, so we're working on this show in Austin coming up, and I'm working hand in hand with the Costellos, the Phantom Power team, and they are experts in, they know all the wallets, they know all the clients, they know how to talk to musicians. They actively manage Ainsley's career, who's the most successful value for value artist. She's the first Wavelake artist to 1 million sats on one song. And to have Tunestr be the gateway drug is my goal, right? Because a live stream is pretty harmless. Everybody knows. They have very tempered expectations about it. They know it's been promised to the world, but it's been very underwhelming in reality for like the fiat live stream world. Like, it's just not. Very few bands can like pull off any meaningful revenue from a live stream, and have it look and sound good, especially. But if you can present that as an additional revenue stream, even if it's just a teeny little bit, like a little extra merch sales is how I present it to them, then I think after they see the results, the education and onboarding goes much smoother. It's tough to do it on the front end because everybody's so skeptical. They're like, well, what's the catch? What's the upside? What's your angle here? I'm generating these, back in the day, these 24-word seed phrases. Like, what the hell is going on? And now it's gotten a lot easier. And I'm the way Primal merged wallet and social, like, that takes one less thing out of the picture. You have one less downloaded app, right?
Right.
But I try to really use my network and use the, my resume, so to speak, because I don't have the same I'm not coming from Bitcoin into music. I'm in music, and people know me. And so I bring a little bit of disarming into the conversation. If I say, hey, let's just give this a whirl, let's just try this out. And then we'll deal with the onboarding later. I can set up Tunestr where the zaps just, if there's no artist, it'll just come straight to Tunestr, and then I'll pay them later, which, isn't the end goal. At the end, I want it to be a direct fan to artist relationship. I don't want the money to come through Tunestr, period. But it does allow that little pause before they have to be onboarded.
Yeah, it's the to get the initial proof of concept out. It makes sense. Is there a particular show that you can think of this year that you think that it really clicked for an artist? Maybe it was their second or third Tunestr show. Was there a specific one, or was it automatic with the first one that they did?
I mean, the first one in December of 2023 was pretty epic because we marketed the heck out of it. We talked about it, in Tokyo at Nostrasia. And we just had, the Adam Curry team was just gung-ho about it. And he was talking about it on his podcasts, and, Wave Lake, Fountain, we were all just jacked up about it. And so we brought Ainsley and Just Loud up from Atlanta and Nashville and played at one of the stages where Prince got his start. And we just everybody had it on their calendar, and so pretty much the whole Nostr community just unloaded their excess, entertainment budget for that week on a Zapathon, and they got 18 million sats over 2 days. I mean, it was crazy. And watching a guy like Just Loud, who, if you don't know his story, his last show before that show at First Avenue, which was the first Tunestr show, his show prior to that was 2019 Lollapalooza under a major record label deal. And the Tunestr show was his first show as an independent artist. He got out of his record label, he got out of the deal. It was a really messy split. The guy had 10 million streams on Spotify, and because of his deal, all of that goes to the label first. He hadn't recouped his expenses, I think. So he didn't see a dime of that. And, the amount of money that they got zapped exceeded, if they would have sold out the biggest room in my venue portfolio, they wouldn't have gotten that paycheck. It was crazy. And that was a flash in the pan. Like we all know, people were zapping the idea, they were zapping the music, they were zapping the technology, they were zapping, the first of a kind. But watching JL kind of come out of his, fiat music world and then have that experience was something else. And he's still, he was at TabConf, he spoke there. And part of the deal with what I wanted to talk to him about on stage was, in order for all these things that we're building to really go mainstream, it's going to take guys like this to get excited. And he doesn't want to learn all of the intricacies of what's going on under the hood. He just wants to know that it works and that his money he's got sound money, and he's got a way to interact with fans that works better than the old way. And then he just remains open-minded and impressed with how it's going. But it's a trip to see a guy like that at a developer conference on Georgia Tech's campus. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, we saw him at the Halloween party that evening, and he played this rendition of I think it was Purple Rain. It was pretty damn good, man. Yeah, I'm a big Prince fan, but it was really cool to hear his rendition of it.
Yeah, he's a talented guy.
Yeah, definitely talented. I mean, they're all talented. What Yeah, let's just jump into that a little bit. Let's jump into the kind of just the music industry in general, where it is right now, Mike, and like why it can't fix itself sometimes, and why it takes technology to force its hand. It seems like every couple decades, at least since I've been born. Why is that, Mike?
I mean, it's not an easy answer, and I'm not an expert in the recorded music space, but it's very difficult. Like if you look at the way Ainsley's going about her career, right? She's at the front end, moved to Nashville as a teenager to really jumpstart her career. And they're going about this, totally grassroots. And if you don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to throw at a marketing plan and really, promote yourself, I don't, have you seen that, God, I don't remember what the title of it is, but it's a documentary about the guy who founded all the boy bands.
No, I haven't seen that. What is it called?
I'll find it. I think it's on Netflix, but basically this guy, the boy bands were basically founded on a Ponzi scheme because that's how much money it takes to break. It's called Dirty Pop.
Oh, wow.
And it's like Bitcoiners would love it, because it's just like another Fire Fest type of thing, where you got this like salesman who can, sell an Eskimo an icicle, and he's running around doing the fake it till you make it model, but he's making it. Like he's picking the winners, but that's really how the music is. He said, I'm going to force this to be a success. And he just goes and spends a ton of money and raises more money from investors. And that's not, it doesn't mean you have to be a scammer, but you have to have the resources to go out and really decide who you're going to throw your money behind. It's like the VC model, right? It's like if you throw 10 poker chips on the table and one of them hits, you probably end up okay.
Is that basically what they're writing into, I guess, as an artist? Is it similar? The recording contract?
It could be. I mean, I think people have wised up to it. I think the movement to own your own masters and to, take control of your content. It's, look at like Taylor Swift. That's another great, she re-recorded all of her albums because of that, because her like seed capital, original deal was, I think it was her first 5 albums. 5 albums were owned by the label. So she had to, and then it got acquired by somebody else, and that whole relationship had a very public unraveling. But I think there's now much more of an awareness and a movement towards controlling your own destiny. But then you got to find somebody who's going to invest in you and who's going to distribute. Really, how are you going to get discovered? And it's really, I could tell you the economics of a show at a club, if you're doing
yeah, let's talk about that. Like what does an average band have to look forward to at the end of the night once everything's settled?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like picture a 4-person band who's trying to make it, say they're based out of Chicago, and a good, Austin's got 1 million venues, and like some of those really fun ones are, Antone's is 450 capacity. Let's use that for an example. So say you've got a $10, $20 ticket. So for a fact that when all is said and done, the most you can get paid as a band, if you had no openers, no expenses, no supporting acts, nothing, would be $9,000. 450 times $20. That would be if there was nobody else to pay and the venue gave you the venue for free and all that stuff. And so just work that into your model of like a 4-person band hitting the road, going to a new city. So you've got a tour bus, you've probably got a tour manager. Everybody's got to eat. You know, you're paying for lodging. It gets pretty skinny pretty quick. And that would be a like $9,000, like realistically call it 6, right? You got to do a lot of stops on a tour. And that's why these people are on tour for months, because you got to do that a few 4 or 5 times a week and go from city to city to city. And it's exhausting and it costs a lot of money. And at the end of the day, it's just, if you're not able to sell a ton of merch, if you're not able to sell CDs like you could in the 90s, you kind of wonder, well, what's it for, right? You need to have somebody willing to take a gamble on you to really hit the bigger venues, because that's where the math starts to work in a meaningful way.
Yeah. And it's and this is where I think something like Tunestr could possibly fill that gap, right? Like maybe they are playing 3 to 5 shows, maybe like 2 out of those 5 shows a week is a Tunestr event, and they're making some Bitcoin on the zaps and stuff like that. Then maybe by the end of their tour run, maybe they're like today where it gets 87K.
Yeah.
And it started out at 30K when they started the tour.
Yeah. That's what's funny. I joke. I joke with JL because he has his keys. They've got a hardware wallet. I did that whole deal. That was a year ago, but he doesn't even know how to move his Bitcoin. So I'm like, well, dude, like Bitcoin was trading around 40 when you played that show. So congrats, man. You just played another show by hodling.
What did he say? That's amazing.
Yeah. I just told him to learn the phrase diamond hands, because he can't even sell it if he wanted to. He'd have to ask his manager or me.
That's great, man. That's amazing. Yeah, I think that's where it's going to really pay dividends for them, right? Like 3 to 5 years, whenever they do decide to, maybe make a next record or, next thing, it's going to be all those touring zaps that they got.
Yeah.
that are going to be paying for that, right?
Yeah, and it's a pitch that makes sense to them. If you just say it's an additional revenue stream, kind of just call it a lottery ticket with no risk. It's a little extra at the merch table, and that matters. Like if you throw 40 or $100 on the top of every one of those stops, it does matter. Yeah, because the numbers are that skinny.
Yeah, and you know what it's like to run a business, Mike. I think once you remove the high time preference on your outlook on what you're trying to accomplish for your business or for your own financials, it really makes things a lot easier. It's really just kind of our own inertia that prescribes ourselves into this kind of like fiat timetable of raking in more and more dollars, by the hour, by the minute, by the day, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think once you kind of get into this mindset of like, no, it can take a year or 2 and that's fine. 3 years, 4 years. And then it starts compounding and that's when it really sets you free. Yeah.
And then ironically, you have the people say, oh, well, I was too late,
or he just got lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always love that when they say that. Oh, you just got lucky. Oh, did I?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, everybody who's held Bitcoin for more than 4 years has had exponential gains.
Yeah. It's when you experience that bear market and that loss and you see it going, down in price. That's what really jars you. And then the second time it's not so bad. And then by the third time you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Buying opportunity.
Yeah. What do you think is the thing that's stopping like the Ticketmasters or even some of these own clubs from doing their own kind of like value for value event? Or do you think it's just that the tech is just not fully there yet? Or is it just somebody like yourself hasn't gone and pitched them on this idea of an alternative way of doing something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the clubs and Ticketmaster are very different beasts. Ticketmaster is obviously owned by Live Nation. I would say they're not incentivized to rock the boat. They've got a pretty sweet, system going on right now with their position in the industry. And I don't think they're going to goof around with blockchain and say that it's blockchain. But it'll just be, their version of Ripple or some, silly centralized thing. Club owners, people like me, I'd say, yeah, we're pretty early. It's great to see what we can do, but I just know like how relentless I am personally to try to make this stuff work. And the reality is, if somebody tries to zap and they don't have like the right liquidity channels open and it doesn't work, they're going to be like, on to the next. It could fall victim to its own success here if it gets too fast, too quick. But it'll be one of those things where like, is it chicken or the egg problem of, do we want the big artists to come in and really like blow up the awareness so that development gets funded quicker, or do you want it to be built out before it blows up? And I don't know. I'm not going to stop pumping this up. So I'm going to keep shooting for more artist awareness and more, more education, more growth. So we'll keep the developers busy.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is tough right now. Like even this event at Bitcoin Park last Wednesday, we had all the artists got between, 70 and 200,000 sats each for a Nashville round. We had maybe a 60-minute 4-person show. So they each played a couple songs, but it took some technical chops to actually get the payments to go. Some people had to like manually type in a Fountain wallet address and use their own Lightning wallet. And that's not going to mainstream.
Yeah. It'll take some time. I mean, it's getting better all the time. I always joke because I think a lot of what we've seen the past 12 months is just from, the whole choke point 2.0 and all that thing that really did force us into this non-custodial model, but it'll get built out and it'll take some time. And then when it starts working and everybody starts, leveraging some of these wallets like Phoenix, then it'll, hopefully it'll take care of itself by then, but it just takes time.
Yeah. What are your go-to wallets? Like, we had, all these people just pull out of the US market and, proactively just stay out of the way of choke point 2.0. And some people actually got attacked directly. It's been kind of a game of whack-a-mole for me because wallet of Satoshi, whatever, custodial flaws purists have with it. It was easy. It was so nice to just onboard an artist in 30 seconds and just skip all the technical mumbo jumbo.
Absolutely. I mean, you could still use it if you have a VPN, right? Like if you're running a VPN, you can still use wallet of Satoshi. I think Phoenix is a really great one. Also, like I love Zeus, love what Evan's making. Even Moon, man. People hate on Moon, but that still works fine.
Yeah, as long as the fees stay low. Right?
Yeah. And then
that was an ordinal disaster.
Yeah, whether you're using Strike or Cash App, those work just fine as well too. So I think we have options here in the US, but nothing what it was a year ago, a year and a half ago. But,
I wonder if they're going to come back.
I think we'll see with this whole presidency, kind of what takes place. I mean, because it could get really interesting. I mean, it already is, right? The price is going up so fast right now. So,
did we hit 90 since we were on the phone?
Oh, did we?
Wow. Oh, we're up to almost 89. That's crazy.
Wow,
we just kind of skipped the 80s almost,
Dude, that's what it is. It's like these 10K levels, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's crazy. I remember when it was like that. I remember the 20K bull run. Do you remember that 2017 when it was just like 10K, 11K, 12K, 13? It was just unrelenting. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was like just a few weeks too. It was like the Christmas run, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was literally like in 2 weeks. We'll see what we get to this cycle, but it's pretty crazy. Is there any kind of things you have lined up for 2025? Anything that you're looking forward to?
From a Tunestr perspective, or just in general?
Yeah, from Tunestr.
I mean, the big bash is I'm really fired up about December 15th and 16th in Austin. Adam Curry is doing his first Boostagram ball live, where he's going to be there in person as the MC, and he's going to introduce 6 artists, 3 of whom are from Austin, 2 of whom have no idea what they're walking into with this, value for value Bitcoin stuff. And they're open-minded. They know, because I booked them. I told them.
Yeah.
But it's just because they're open-minded and we're willing to give it a shot. And, it doesn't hurt to be able to trade on Adam Curry's name. When he endorses something, people pay attention.
Absolutely.
So, we're doing that, but the day before that, we're having a mini conference. We're calling it an independent music summit at Bitcoin Commons. And it's going to be really geared towards Freecoiners and artists, like artists, agents, band managers, venue operators, people who are in positions of influence in the Austin music community. And we're going to guest list them so that they get priority admission. It's great when we all get together and, beat our chests and talk about Bitcoin, but,
right.
We got to make sure we're welcoming to the lowest common denominator on a technical level. And so this Sunday event, we've got a lot of great Bitcoin, I hate the word influencers, thought leaders. There you go. How about that? Like Derek Ross, yourself, DJ Valerie, Heather Larson from Radio Detox, Phantom Power, Ainsley, Just Loud, a bunch of Abel James locally in Austin. And we're just going to get up there and talk about what you and I just talked about. Is like, why do musicians have a resistance to this? Why is it, why is this important? How do you do it if you want to do it? And so we'll have 4 panels and then have like a happy hour and some good food afterwards, and then lead into the Monday show with Adam Curry. And I'm really curious how it's going to be received. And I'm excited and nervous at the same time, because you're putting yourself out there, in the world with this idea, and you're not, you're going beyond just the friendly confines of a Bitcoin conference.
Well, I think if the price keeps going up, and that'll draw enough attention,
right,
as it always does. But no, I think just in general, I think Austin's just been kind of waiting for an event like this. To be honest, I think it's gonna be. Like you said, once you get Adam Curry involved and some of the others that you mentioned, I think it's just primed for a good time. It's gonna be amazing. And then if you guys need a place to work out of, dude, there's Pleb Lab next door. There's
I love it.
So feel free to come through.
I'll be down there a couple days early. So
yeah, definitely. Cool. I think the other thing I wanted to touch on was just the motivation behind this. I know, Mike, you're kind of, you're somebody that I've definitely gotten advice from and definitely gotten help from, but is there anything that you would like to say to any artists out there that is probably listening to this right now? And it's like, you know what, man, really want to do what, Just Loud is doing, or what Ainsley's doing, or, any number of these musicians that are what they're doing. Any advice you could give them, or tell them where to start, or anything like that?
Yeah, I always try to disarm the scary barriers to entry and just say, look, just start by saying yes, right? Just be open-minded and say yes. And that's that's one of the other big things for me in deciding to we didn't really talk about I was a very private Bitcoiner. I don't like the attention. I don't even like doing podcasts. So I didn't have any incentive to dox myself. Right. And the last bull run, God, I just saw so many bad actors taking advantage of creators and not even necessarily scamming the creators directly, but just taking pretty significant liberties with their artistic integrity by like saying that, selling NFTs was a good idea. And so, if your fans want it, go ahead and sell it. I don't care. Like, just be authentic and be honest and open about what you're doing. Don't tell them that they're going to retire on this JPEG.
Yeah.
And so I want to be in a position where, like, if I do have an artist, I just said, my advice to artists would be to just say yes. Well, that was kind of dangerous in the last bull run. If you just said yes to everybody who, we had 1 million people try to approach my day job with like NFT VIP packages that we could sell to our customers. And if I would have just said yes to everything, that, wouldn't have gone over well. And so I want to be a resource, at least to get people into a space of, high integrity and meaningful adoption of what this can do, rather than a Wild West, S-coin exchange. And so I want to give people the opportunity to say yes and not get, bamboozled.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was pretty gnarly last cycle where you just had everybody making an NFT. It was kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah.
And it's like, if you frame it up like you're selling a baseball card, that's one thing. It's fine. It's a digital collectible. Who cares? Like, it's not my deal, but
but even some artists that you wouldn't even expect to make an NFT made an NFT, and it was like, what?
Mm-hmm. You had no shortage of people pitching you on it with like no risk other than, your image and your integrity.
Yeah. Yeah. It's no wonder why some of them now are probably hesitant when they see some of the Zap stuff. Mm-hmm. They're probably like, oh, is this another thing like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Is there anything that we need to cover besides what we've already covered for Tunestr? Anything else we need to promote?
No, man. I'm excited about the coming year. I'm excited about what some of the solutions being built could do for independent art and artists, and just keep it on your radar. Send people my way if they express interest in the space and they are open-minded. That those are the kind of folks that we're looking to get on stages. So
absolutely. All right, let's do rapid fire real quick. I just have three questions, and usually like to end this way. But first question is, what's the past year? What's a good piece of music, art, book? Could be whatever, anything that we can consume. What would you like to recommend to the audience to check out?
The last show that really blew my mind was John Batiste, the guy who he's on the Colbert Show.
Okay.
I never thought anything of it. Like, I just said, this guy's a talented entertainer. But never really thought of him as like a touring artist for whatever reason, right? It's just, I don't watch TV either. So, but man, he played our 1500 cap room and just had the entire place eating out of the palm of his hand. He pulled out he had a grand piano on stage. He played every instrument on the whole stage. And he was just, if he comes through your town, don't miss it.
John Batiste.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He was the music, I don't know, music director on the Colbert Nightly Show.
Wow. Is there, when you're in this field that you're in, do you run into some of these different artists and any of them like that, where you're just like, wow, talk about a talent of our time? Is there any other ones that come to mind?
I mean, the lazy but obvious answer is Prince. You know, he started his career at our venue, and so but John Batiste had that kind of aura of just, this guy is not just a musician. This guy is a professional entertainer, and he has the whole package. And
yeah, that's amazing. What are you looking forward to in 2025 as far as the bull run? Any goals?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to being ready this time.
What do you mean ready?
Like I felt like the last bull run, the use case for music snuck up on me because it was dominated by the, altcoiners.
Yeah.
It was all Ethereum projects.
Right.
And so I had gone past my, I was already to the Bitcoin only as far as my ethos goes, but the only people doing anything were altcoiners, and every question I got was around that. So I'm excited to see that. And even if they want to do JPEGs, now they have ordinals. I don't care. Like, it's not for me, but like, at least they're on the right chain.
That's funny. And okay, this is the last question. What's any interesting podcast or talk show or anything like that you listen to lately where you're just like, gosh, that blew my mind? Anything you can recommend?
Like an episode or a particular show?
Yeah, episode or anything or a show, whichever is easier to recall.
Yeah, I'll give a couple. I've really been enjoying the Nostr shows. And if we're talking particular episodes, Rabble, are you familiar with Rabble?
No, what's that?
Yeah. He's one of the early Twitter employees with Jack. And so he now is a epic Nostr developer. He has the Nos app. Okay. And he recently made the podcast tour, kind of telling the early Twitter story and some of the, why are you in Nostr? Why are and so he was on Pleb Chain Radio. He was on, he did 3 or 4 of them, kind of rapid fire last month. And he's just such a great guy. I met him in Riga, and
check that out.
Yeah. And then as far as shows, I got to plug there's this movement in the value verse, like the value for value music space, where Adam Curry's, he's got his No Agenda podcast that has like a bazillion followers. But he's got this new podcast last year called Boostagram Ball, which is a spinoff of Headbangers Ball, what he did on MTV.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's a cool throwback for guys our age to like the old like radio DJ. And so he'll play just songs like it's a radio program, except he has sound effects gamified so that if you're listening to it live and you're zapping, it like goes pew, it like makes noises so you can hear people zapping. And he has all the technology built out on the back end where if he's playing, you know, a Martin Grooms song, the wallet actually switches. So while that song is playing, if you zap, it goes straight to the artist. Nice. You know, and he's constantly switching it during the show. And there are these little programs popping up in the podcast world, like the Phantom Power Artist Hour is another one, the Phantom Power Business Hour. And it's just kind of a cool throwback to like the old radio that we grew up with.
That's awesome.
It's like it's actually a DJ, and then they have this zapping thing built on top of it. So
that's really cool. It's almost like they're feeding up the tracks for everybody to listen to.
Yeah, I definitely give those a listen.
Yeah, I'll go and check those out. I didn't even know that was taking place. That's really interesting. Yeah, and he has such a smooth voice.
I know.
Adam Curry, right? It's like
yeah, and that's why we're doing this Austin event is Boostagram Ball live. So it's like kind of promoting the podcast, but also just, you know, letting him do his thing on stage live.
Where can people go get tickets to that?
AntonesNightclub.com. I think it's straight on Antone's website. $10, super low barrier to entry. You know, we just want to, all the ticket proceeds go to the artists. The promoter and venue and Tunestr aren't taking any of it. It's all going straight to the stage.
Wow. And if they want to come to the Valley for Value event that you have going on, where can they get tickets for that?
SATSBYSW at SATSBYSW.com.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the name of the conference, Sats by Southwest.
One time we tried using that, and then we got a letter from South by. So
did you really?
Yeah, that was like 21, I think it was.
Oh man,
yeah, it was hilarious.
I thought that was original content. All right,
it's okay. It won't happen. I think they did it for us because we actually created the logo, and we made the logo look exactly like South by Southwest. We just replaced the X with a lightning bolt, and it was just too close for comfort, and they sent the cease and desist.
That's funny.
Yeah. Hey, you're not trying unless you're getting cease and desist letters. That's what I say.
Yeah. There you go.